I just closed on this duplex in Washington, D.C. And in this video, I'm going to be going over the pros and cons of investing in duplexes or 2 units. So let's jump into it. So the first pro is that even though a duplex is kind of considered multifamily, I mean, it's one step above single family, you can still get a residential loan. So it's only when a property is 5 units or more that you need to get into like commercial financing. Pretty much every single bank will lend on a duplex because some people will live there as a principal residence. Some people might have it as an investment property, but you're still going to get a residential type of loan. And not only that, but if you're purchasing a duplex with somebody currently in there, or even 2 people occupying, both units, the bank will actually look at that favorably because it will decrease the amount, the DTI ratios. So if you're buying a duplex that's completely vacant, the bank is going to say, well, you're going to have to bring, X amount to the table to cover the mortgage. But if there's people that are occupying both units or just one unit, they're going to use, let's say it's $1,000 a month for each unit. They're going to use usually about 75% of that income to help you qualify for the loan. So it's actually going to be easier to qualify a lot of times for a 2-unit type of property. The second pro is that buying a duplex triggers the law of the first deal. And you may or may not have heard this concept before. It's from an investor, a really well-known investor named Michael Blank. He's got a great book, great YouTube channel. Definitely check him out.
Who do you need to become a better investor?
But basically he says if you purchase a multifamily, a small multifamily of any size, even a duplex, within a few years, I believe is what he says, you will be financially free through apartment investing. So you have to if you want to get started in multifamily investing, a duplex is a great way to do it. And once you purchase that duplex, all of a sudden, a 4-unit seems possible, a 5-unit, even a 10-unit seems possible. And not only that, but because you just purchased that 2-unit, other investors, other real estate agents, they might look you up in the tax records. It happened to me, actually. This is how I found this deal. And they'll just know that you can close on multifamily, even though it's small multifamily, and they'll start bringing you more deals. So duplexes are a great way to get started in apartment investing and to become financially free. The guys that own, hundreds and thousands of units, most of them started with duplexes or really small multifamily. No one just goes out there and buys a 100-unit property. I mean, there's exceptions here and there. But for the most part, start small and build your way up. The third pro for buying a duplex is that if you purchase the property right, you can essentially live for free.
Oh my God! Wow!
Your other unit is going to be completely covering your mortgage. Sometimes you might even be making a little bit. And if it doesn't cover the mortgage entirely, obviously it's going to take a huge chunk out of your payments so that you can save up, and maybe over the course of 6 months, 12 months, or even a year or two, you'll have another down payment for another small multifamily property or anything for the most part. The fourth pro to duplexes is that it's going to be less risky than single family rental properties. For me, from my standpoint, from being in real estate for, really about 10 years now, I would almost never purchase a single family rental property again, unless the flip potential is there or unless it's just an amazing buy and hold opportunity. And the reason is that if somebody stops paying or somebody moves out or whatever it is, that property is just sitting there vacant. You're not collecting anything on it. Whereas a duplex, it's a little bit less risky because if one person moves out, the other person theoretically is, still paying their part and covering your mortgage or, taking a good chunk out of it. So it's going to be a little bit less risky when you get into, more of the smaller multifamily versus a single family rental. The next pro to duplexes is the Airbnb potential. So this is obviously going to vary from city to city. But a lot of cities have regulations where if you're not living in the property, then it's very restrictive, or sometimes it's not allowed to actually have an Airbnb there. However, with a duplex, if you have 2 units and you're living in one and it's your principal residence, a lot of times cities are much more flexible with that. So instead of putting a long-term renter into the basement unit or side unit, whatever it is, you can make that an amazing Airbnb suite and probably get significantly more than if it was a long-term renter.
Airbnb announcing new service features and new products on its platform.
Obviously there's, a whole lot of things that go along with Airbnb in terms of management and that type of thing, but your cash flow could drastically increase. All right, so let's talk about the cons now. So the most obvious one is that because it's 2 separate units, you're going to have 2 different groups of people or 2 people. So you're going to have twice as many residents theoretically as a single family property, which means you could have twice as many complaints, twice as much property management to do. That being said though, because everything's under one roof, it's going to be a little bit more effective for you as a landlord. as opposed to driving to one house over there and then one house over there. Everything's under the same roof, which is good. And as a landlord, myself personally, I like to, nip everything in the bud, so to speak. So if I even see something that could be a potential issue, I'll try to over improve it, knowing that, a potential tenant could have a problem with it because, some tenants are going to be better than others. And that's why it's also massively important to screen your tenants as much as possible, both financially, but also to try to get maybe recommendations that from the other landlord. Hey, this person's not a pain in the what, because you want to have a really nice property that doesn't have any issues, but you also want to have a tenant that's not going to bring up just little things here and there. The next con is that because you're living basically attached to somebody or on top of somebody or below somebody, depending on how your 2-unit or duplex is set up, the potential for noise is going to be there. So if you're one of those people that can't stand, hearing different things and you want your peace and quiet, a duplex might not be for you. It's not to say you're going to get some crazy, loud, noisy neighbor, but you'll probably hear them like stomping around a little bit or, making noises here and there. And if you're living in the property as your principal residence, obviously you're the landlord and property manager. So if you get the wrong tenant, they could be knocking on your door all the time to say, hey, fix this leaky sink, fix this, fix that. So you got to keep that in mind. The next con to duplexes is that even though you're house hacking and even though it's multifamily, it is about the smallest multifamily that you can potentially get. So I would much prefer to have, obviously like a 4-unit or a 20-unit or obviously like 100 units as opposed to a duplex. Because with a duplex, kind of like I mentioned, if one person stops paying the rent, you're probably still okay, but that's still like half of your rent. Whereas if you had a 4-unit or an 8-unit and one person stopped paying the rent, it would be much less of an issue. So it's something to keep in mind. I mean, a lot of the top investors, they're not even going to look at a duplex just because in terms of economies of scale, it's just not there. Because like the most cash flow you're going to get from a 2-unit is, let's say $3,000 per month. Whereas if you're looking at like 20 units, 30 units, 100 units, the numbers are just exponentially larger. And I actually almost passed on this deal because honestly, it was almost too small for me. I was looking for more of like a minimum 4 units, 8 units, 10 units, something in that ballpark. However, what I liked about this deal is that if I were to completely renovate this property, put it on the market as a 2-unit or even a single family house, it worked out very well from a flip standpoint in addition to the potential cash flow. So that's why I did the deal. The fourth con with duplexes is that they're a little bit harder to find. So you might have to go into areas that are, you're not too familiar with or maybe a little bit outside your neighborhood. So you might have to drive 15, 20, 30 minutes away to actually find the neighborhoods where they have duplexes. Now, the best way to find out where all the duplexes are, and this is exactly how I did it, I have a video below that you can watch after this video is over. It's called PropStream. You can use PropStream. You can literally just search whatever zip code, whatever city, and you can look up properties that are 2 units or 4 units or just multifamily properties, and then you can start marketing to them and you can get an idea of where they actually are located. And then another way to find duplexes is just look in the MLS. And sometimes they're not listed correctly. Sometimes they might be under residential. Sometimes they might be under commercial, multifamily. So you really want to set up several different searches and you can just put in the keywords like 2 units, or you can actually search on the MLS by 2-unit properties. But sometimes, like I said, they might be in residential. They might be in different sections. So you can also have searches set up for keywords such as 2 units, duplexes, small multifamily, that type of thing. And you'll be able to see, the off-market properties with PropStream as well as the listed properties with the MLS. The next con is that comparable sales are a little bit tougher to come by for duplexes, 2 units, than they are for just, your traditional like Cape Cod type of house. So what you want to do, instead of going back just 6 months, maybe you go back 12 months, maybe you expand your radius a little bit. And just to be on the safe side, this is what I did with this property, and I've done this with other properties as well. Because a 2-unit is basically almost a single family house, you should run your after renovated values with single family houses as well as with 2 units, and then kind of keep both those values in mind. And if you want to be extra conservative, just go with the lower value, even if it's more of like the residential type of property, because sometimes people sometimes they just sell it as a residential house, sometimes they sell it as a 2-unit. So just try to be on the safe side, but look at comps for both single family houses as well as 2 units. So thanks for watching this video. And like I said, if you're looking to find duplexes or small multifamily in your area, be sure to watch this video right here. And if you have any questions, drop them in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.